Good morning, everyone, and happy Wednesday. Let's give everyone a minute to join before we begin here. Awesome. Let's go ahead and get things started here. First of all, thank you everyone for joining us today and to sit here and listen to our webinar on Fieldwire for project closeouts, ownership, and maintenance. My name is Pranati Gompa, and I am a program manager here at Fieldwire. Before we begin, I would like to address a few housekeeping items. To ensure smooth session, attendees will be muted, but please don't hesitate to ask any questions you may have in the Q&A panel. Today, we have divided the webinar into two sections, and we will do a Q&A session at the end of each section, and we will try our best to address as many questions as we can. For any questions we don't get to, our experts will reach out to you directly. We also have some poll questions during the webinar for you to participate in. Feel free to select your answers when those questions come up. Additionally, we have a short 5-question survey at the end of the webinar, which we would really appreciate it if you could fill it out. And this survey really helps us to determine the usefulness of the content we deliver and also helps us to plan for our future webinars. So before we dive into the webinar, let's first kick it off with a poll question. And there it is. What type of company do you work for? Just take a quick minute to answer that. Awesome, thank you. And I have another poll question for you guys. On a scale of 1 to 5, how do you rate your Fieldwire knowledge? 1 being novice, 5 being an expert. I generally say I'm a good 4.5. So just feel free to rate your Fieldwire knowledge. Awesome, thanks again. Without further ado, I would like to welcome our Construction Success Manager, Melissa Garza.
Thank you, Pranati. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa Garza, and I'm a Senior Construction Success Manager here at Fieldwire. I help manage some of our accounts here at Fieldwire with workflow consultations, trainings, and just ensuring that everyone's using the platform to the best of its ability. Before Fieldwire, I did some construction years as well. I was a project engineer working for a general contractor in the commercial space. So very happy to be here and show you the topics that we're going to cover today.
Awesome. Thanks for the introduction, Melissa. So let's quickly go over today's agenda. So we've done with the introductions. I'll quickly give you an overview of the session. And like I mentioned, we've split this webinar into two different sections, closeouts and O&M. And we will have a Q&A session at the end of each of these sessions. So feel free to go ahead and add any questions that you might have. Awesome. So next slide. This is one of the webinars that we are doing, but we do these webinars regularly. The next one's in November. We do one a month. You can go into our website and look at the topics that are coming up and register yourself as early as now. And we also host a few of our past webinars on our website, and also all these webinars that we've conducted in the past are available to you guys on YouTube as well. Next slide. And you all know Fieldwire has a lot of different modules, but today we will go ahead and focus majorly on these 5 different modules: photos, forms, plans, tasks, and files. Awesome. Before we go into the webinar, let's go with one more question. So just wanted to quickly understand if you guys use Fieldwire for closeouts. Thank you for answering that. I see majority of the people have answered you don't. Here we have Melissa today to talk about one of the use cases that one of our customers do. Melissa, can you kick us off with the importance of having a streamlined closeout process?
Absolutely. Pranati, a well-executed closeout process is crucial for wrapping up your project team and ensuring that everything runs smoothly during that handover. Closeout is just not about securing final approvals, but about maintaining transparency, accountability, and organized documentation across the project. By having all those necessary documents in place, we can create a clear pathway for the client or ownership to assume responsibility. And beyond meeting contractual obligations, a solid closeout sets the project for long-term success.
Thank you for that. Can you kick us off with showing how you use tasks to streamline your closeout and what role do punch lists play?
Definitely. So I created this project here called Project Closeout. And as you can see, we have all the tasks that were done during the construction phase. Now, at this point, majority of the items have moved to a completed status, or we're wrapping up the project. And what I want to do next is basically create a package, request a package to all my subcontractors, letting them know that they need to submit certain documentation. So what I did is I created a category called Closeout, which in here we can see all those specific items just related to that closeout. Now, you may see that we have different custom task statuses. The way that we have it set up in this is that we're tracking all of those punch construction items, but we're also scheduling items specifically for closeout, that at one point, the goal is to have them completed by my subcontractor and then move to the final approval stage. Now, taking a closer look to that closeout category, and we can see that we have all those different types of trades and specifically a closeout item for it. So now this is going to really help us streamline that completion package through that Fieldwire task. Now let's take a look at how to prepare that final punch, closeout punch item. So we open this equipment closeout in here. We can see that we have several items within this task. First of all, we assign the task to my subcontractor, which is Pamela. We have it under closeout, and this is a schedule item as well. I also added a checklist so we can submit items so we can list items that they need to submit, right? So at one point, they have to deliver the as-builts, O&M manuals, warranties, change orders, all of these items that they can go in and start marking up as they get sent back to us. And this is actually a pre-saved checklist that I created so I can easily add every time I create a closeout list task. So for this specific example, we can see how the subcontractor started sending us some items, right? So we have an as-built right here. We have the O&M manual right here. And from there, we can start and check this off. The nice thing about having this checklist right here is that you also get a notification on the task itself of who did the item and as well the date of when that happened. Now, once the subcontractor completes this task, then we can mark it as complete. And then it's the GC job to review it and then finally move it to the final approval stage. So this helps us keep everything on track and ensure that nothing is falling through the cracks. Also, one nice thing about this is that Fieldwire simplifies any processes by allowing you to create any tasks related to this closeout item. So if there are any delays that came up with this closeout equipment, we can always create a related task and link it to this parent task. So any extra like communication that we need to do or any specific items that we need to resolve for this specific delay, it can all be communicated to that related task that will be linked back to the equipment closeout, just in case we need to reference to more information.
Awesome. Thank you so much for showing this, Melissa. Can you also go over your process of setting up the plans tab and how does that help you with organizing your as-builts?
Definitely. This is perfect timing as this is the next step in the workflow where we'll focus on how to organize that closeout documentation. So we'll start with the as-built plans. I really like to use Fieldwire plans because it allows to make annotations and markups directly on the documents. So any changes made during constructions are captured. We are ensuring that the final as-built documents are up to date and accurately reflect the completed project. For example, using different colors to indicate updates or corrections makes those plans easier to read and navigate. And once the plans are complete, we can quickly export them. But for now, I want to show you how to toggle those layers. So as you can see in here, we have very different types of colors, right? And I just want to make sure that I'm reflecting the as-built changes that I want to share with my owner. So in this case, I can always click on this eye icon and pick and choose which layers I want to see or I want to share with my project team. So in this case, I can just toggle the red markups, and these are going to be reflecting on that as-built package. So once I toggle my layers, I can go back to all plans. And then from here, within preparing that package, I want to make it easier just to pick and choose which drawings are going to be part of that, like as-built export, right? So I'm going to select those drawings that are part of the as-built. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a quick hashtag, a quick tag in here, and name it as-built. So now every time I want to reference back to this, I can always apply that as-built hashtag, only see what I need to see. And then now I can do a quick export. And again, you can select those layers that you want to include.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. And do you also use Fieldwire for equipment inspections, your final inspections, photo documentation?
Definitely. Yeah, so Fieldwire enables you to streamline the entire inspection process by allowing you to attach like inspection forms, photos, or even equipment checklists directly to the tasks. This way, you can easily track inspections and make sure that everything is properly documented for that final handover. Also, this helps with contract requirements and ensuring accountability for delivering that quality work. So if you're a subcontractor, we have actually hosted a commissioning webinar. So we'll putting that link into the chat so that you can learn even deeper on how to run inspections and equipment documentation.
Awesome, thank you. I've put the link in the chat for everyone if you want to look at how you can use Fieldwire for commissioning. Can you go over how you manage all the required closeout documentation?
Definitely. So now that we've discussed tasks and inspections, let's move on how you can export your inspection forms and photos. So Fieldwire allows you to simplify this process by quickly gathering and exporting all this information, right? Specifically, when exporting photos, you always have the ability to apply filters, right? So maybe you applied a hashtag by using your as-built hashtag, or your closeout hashtag. You can always apply that hashtag, filter it out, and do an export. Or in any other case, you can always pick and choose which photos you want to export out. So I'm doing a batch select in here. Everything looks good. And then from here, I can just simply export these photos on our original or optimized quality. The nice thing about exporting photos through Fieldwire is that you will get any markups that are on the photos, and also the date stamp of when that was uploaded to Fieldwire, just to make it easy to reference to those specific points in the project. Now, for inspection forms, you can always export those customized reports that were created within Fieldwire, and also be able to see any outstanding issues or corrections, and just providing a clear, detailed record, for your team or the client. So as well, I can come in here, select all those inspection forms, and then from here, do a quick export. You have the ability to do that over in PDF or CSV. So once these are all exported, they can all be added to that final handover package and share with your project team as part of that closeout documentation. After these documents have been exported and saved, it's important to control who has access to this documentation. So that's what I'm going to move to. How do we organize the closeout documents, right? So once we have all the information, we have all our as-builts, our tasks, closeout task finally done, Fieldwire allows you to have a place to centralize all of these documentation and have it in one place, right? So we can create folders for warranty items, we can create a folder for my as-builts, for my data sheets, anything that we need to make sure that we're recording. And this feature is particularly useful during this handover phase, just in case you might need to limit document access to a specific stakeholders, while allowing others to see it. You can always change that access to restrict it to certain permission levels, right? So depending who needs viewing access, you can always pick and choose which project teams can see or access all of the specific folders. So now in this case, we are just making sure that we have that clear communication while minimizing any delays, that can happen during that handover process.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for going over this whole thing. And let's take a minute and answer a few of the questions that we've got. The first question here for you, Melissa, are Fieldwire plans that we put annotations on, I mean, like I think the ones that you make a markup, can be exported in a specific format, like a CAD or other format, or can you only export them as a PDF?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, currently the option is only to export these plans over in PDF format.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Feel free to go ahead and add your questions to the questions tab. The second question we have is, what if our subs are not on Fieldwire?
Yeah,
So
that's a great question. So you can still share information outside, if your subcontractors are not in Fieldwire, specifically with the as-builts or any drawings. As mentioned, you can pick and choose like the layers that you want to show, like the markups. And by exporting that to PDF, that wouldn't be a restriction that they cannot see it or see the actual drawing. And in terms of like tasks or forms, anything like that, a nice way to do this, like report out that communication, is by creating reports. So within Fieldwire, you can generate those reports. You have different types of formats that you can do. Let's say that we're gonna do like open items, right? You have an option to send it out over like a PDF format, either a summary or detail. You can also export a CSV. But the nice thing about the detailed PDF is that any person can come in here and include as many information and content that you like, right? So literally pick and choose what you want to show on that PDF, like all of those messages that happen on the tasks or the photos, even the files, any like important documentation that we attach to the task. That's something that we can share as well. So by adding that recipient in here, they'll receive that via email.
awesome, thank you. I think another part to that, just to add to what Melissa is saying, those specific tasks, the closeout tasks that you've created, in this case where she was showing, she was assigning it to the sub is putting the checklist on, checking them off. But you also can do the same if you don't have subs on the platform. As and when you receive, you go ahead and check them off and add the documentation so that when you're finally creating your package, you have all the information at one location. You're not going and searching through your emails and things like that.
Exactly.
Awesome. So another question we have is, for 360 photos, do you have to have a 360-degree camera?
So if you want to take photos within Fieldwire, we do support the Ricoh Theta models. There's several models that we support specifically with the Ricoh camera. That is something that you can, take within within Fieldwire. Now, if you have a model that's outside of the Ricoh Theta types, you can always take that 360 photo outside of Fieldwire and then upload them into your Photos tab.
Thank you. Can you show how to add tags to photos?
Definitely, that's a great question. So it's very easy to add tags. You have two options, right? You can click on the photo itself and then add that hashtag. So like Closeout. That's one option. Or the other is I can do a quick batch select, go to my actions, manage tags, and apply that hashtag.
Awesome. Thank you. Before an export, can you pick and choose, check, uncheck the layers as you need for plans?
Yes, and I'll cover that again. So in here we have, again, we have our as-built hashtag, have all those 5 drawings that I want to export out. I'll do a batch select, actions, and then from here, export plans. There we go. And this is where you can apply those layers, right? So if you know that you're using red specifically to mark the as-builts, I can toggle that and then just select the red markup. Then from here, if you want to remove any other layers, but in this case, in specific for as-builts, I want to make sure I have all attachments and all links. So then I'll do the export from here.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. I think we are almost midway. Let's go ahead and get things started for the next workflow. Before we go into the next workflow, I have another quick question for you guys. And also any questions we haven't answered, we'll try to get them towards the end of this webinar, or we'll just reach back out to you with an answer. Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. Go ahead and take us through the O&M use case.
For sure. So now that we've covered the closeout process, let's switch gears and look at this next critical phase, which is maintenance planning. As the project is handed over, it's the contractor's job to, the contractor's job is nearly done, but the building life is just beginning. So this maintenance planning is critical to ensuring that the building continues to function optimally. Imagine that I'm now taking step into a different role. I'm now acting as a maintenance company, taking over. We'll switch projects within Fieldwire and explore how to manage those maintenance workflows, by ensuring that we're setting up tasks for regular equipment and other services. So let's take a look at my mechanical drawing. Right here, MP1. So this drawing contains the furnace schedule. As you can see, I marked this up right here. And what I want to do is basically create an inventory of all these different types of equipment items. Now, by using the task importer, I have a template here for my task importer. I basically created a log to import this into Fieldwire, right? So everything's pretty much organized at this point. I have all of these different types of equipment names in here. I added a status so that whenever I put it into Fieldwire, it goes in an install status, because this is just post-construction, right? My category is under equipment log, just to help me sort that better. And then I'm also adding a hashtag, mechanical equipment, to quickly find that. And I'm also with that adding some files, just so everyone in my team has access to any product data or any important information necessary for that. So what I'm gonna do is do a quick copy and paste. Copy and paste. Go back to Fieldwire. And I'm gonna go into my tasks module right here. And then from here, we do an import tasks. I paste that information. Everything looks good. Of course, if you need to add any extra information, like maybe drop it to an assignee, you can also do that here, or maybe a start and end date. So for now, I'll do the import tasks. You can see that how pretty much quickly import into the project. So now I have all of these different equipments all under my install column, install status. Now, I do want to point out, we're going to talk about a little bit of the statuses that we have here. As you can see, we have like two different types of things that we're tracking. So the first one is my out of service and on service items, which I'll dive deeper once I jump into a task, one of these equipment tasks. And then I also have like any open items or maintenance that we're scheduling in here. So let's look at how we can track that within Fieldwire. So if I jump into the tasks that I just created and then go into the actual drawing, I can see how all of these tasks are right now linked to the drawing but do not have a specific point. So what I'm gonna do is start dropping all of these items into their specific rooms, right? So we can see that the furnace symbols right here. So I'll start dropping them where they belong. There we go. And by attaching these tasks directly to a specific point, this just allows me to quickly locate them and be able to track any history and maintenance while I'm doing my walks over in the building. So just ensuring that over the life of the buildings, the goal here is to have all these equipments maintained and that nothing is being overlooked. So when I jump into this furnace number 1, I can see that information that carry over from my task importer. This came as an install status. We have it under equipment log, and then we have the product information right here of this furnace. I can always quickly access that, check how much, how often I do need to do those maintenance. Maybe it's every year. But the goal here is to have that original set on how that equipment looks at this specific point in time. So if in the future, let's say 6 months from now or a year from now, I'm doing a check, I can always come back and reference to that point in time in the past, right? Now, let's say that while we're doing our maintenance check, we can always tag this, and mark it as on service. So everything looks good, everything is perfect at this point of time. And now if by any point, let's say we're doing some of our checks, we're on the next drawing, we see this exhaust fan that it's on service, but then while I'm doing my walk, I realize that the exhaust fan is failing. So I want to make sure that I'm reporting right? So I'm going to add a comment and basically notify my project team that this fan is offline for failed bearing. So I'll add that comment. Now, what I need to do is move this into an out of service status. So this is out of service. Once I tag it to whoever needs to schedule this this repair, I can tag that person, and then from there, they'll move on and schedule that repair. Now, my goal here is to keep this history for this specific equipment, just to what happened, right? Was it out of service? Was it in service? Any further detail or problems that I want to resolve, I'm going to use a related task to basically create in a specific item, still linked to the equipment itself, but just have more context on what is happening here, right? So as you can see, I created this related task, and then I see all the information specifically on this problem, which is, again, is linked to that original one. We can see in this case, again, the fan is offline. Can we please schedule a repair? And now this has been tagged for Mike Anderson, which is part of the team. So just as a summary, you know, by marking these tasks as in service or out of service, we're creating that clear log of the equipment's condition over time. And what's nice about the using it with Fieldwire is that we also allow you to attach photos with those timestamps, right? So I can come in here, add my photo, see the date, and then a year from now I can see that snapshot of the system status and review it against any data to just identify that where potential issues before they escalate. Now, as we're doing maintenance checks, we can have tasks, you know, that maybe we need to like run a specific like maintenance inspection or routine inspections. We can always attach a form as well. So in here, let's say that we need to run that inspections or maintenance. We can attach it directly to Fieldwire and just make sure that we're able to visualize, you know, when was this completed and have all that complete information on the item that was checked and have all that attached to that specific task attached to a specific point within Fieldwire. And you know, the nice thing about having it in Fieldwire is that I'm always able to relate it back to the original history. So if I ever need to find that history, it's just very easily quick to find. Now to summarize, today we cover, you know, 2 different workflows: how to stream project closeout by organizing your documentation, creating final closeout punch, exporting that information, and ensuring proper handover to the ownership team. We've also demonstrated how to use Fieldwire for ongoing maintenance management, creating a structured workflow to maintain that equipment over time. But yeah, the transition between construction and maintenance, we all know that is critical. And with Fieldwire, you can ensure that that handover is smooth and well documented. And that concludes the end of my workflow. I'm happy to answer any other questions or work through additional steps if needed.
Awesome. Thank you so much for going over this workflow and showing it in action on your projects. Melissa, let's answer a couple of more questions here. And before we go into the questions, I have one last poll question for you all. Just want to quickly know if these use cases benefited you guys. Just like a quick understanding of how you like them. Awesome. Thank you so much for answering that. So let's get into the questions. Firstly, let me tell you guys this. We are recording this webinar, so I will send a recording and the deck, everything to you guys post this webinar. In a day or two, you will get a email from us with the recording and like the deck and everything like that. So you can always go back and refer to the resources that we've provided. Also, the next question we have here is, does Fieldwire able to build maintenance checklists?
Yeah, that is a great question. So similar to how we created a checklist over in the closeout workflow, you can always create a checklist within Fieldwire, right? So there's few options. You can use our standard checklist, right? And create that new checklist to do maintenance checks. What this is gonna give you, is that option of having those, I'm gonna use this as an example. Basically have those options to go in and start marking those boxes, right? Another good way to do that, in case you're looking to quickly like gather more information, you can always make the checklist into like a form. So you can pick and choose how you build it, but if you want to gather like a little bit more extra information and have a little bit more of that data at the end of the check, that's an option as well that you guys can use through the forms.
Awesome. The next question we have here is about the history. So if there are 40 tasks submitted in a year and all 40 get completed, do these 40 tasks get logged on a list or the tasks stay isolated? Understanding maybe if you can like generate a report with these 40 tasks, like a list, or maybe use a category to separate them. I don't know.
Yeah. So let's say that we have those tasks, those 40 tasks, and I want to make sure that I understand this question. There's a few options. So as Pranati mentioned, you can generate a report just on those 40 tasks, right? So let's say that these are 40, I select them, I apply the hashtag, like these are the items, and then generate a report by applying that hashtag right here. But also a nice thing about having like equipment history through Fieldwire is that, let's say that they're on an on-service status, they can just be basically kept fixed on this place, and we'll just keep adding on history as the years go by, right? If any like equipment is like we removed it or anything like that, I can always move it into an archive state, which in this case, right, usually the archive tasks will go after, depending on your settings, they'll disappear after a certain period of time, but they don't disappear really because you can always bring them back if needed. But they in a way, they'll always be there. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa. We have a question for you here. Thank you for the presentation. Just curious as to how long Melissa has been using the platform to build up the proficiency that she has.
Thank you so much. I've been using Fieldwire for 3.5 years, so I should be an expert for sure by now.
Awesome. Another question for you. Is there a way to tell a project is closed without opening the project? Can you maybe show them the archive?
Yeah, so there's a few ways to do that. One nice way, if you have if you have the account manager permission within Fieldwire, you can always apply like labels. So let's say that there's two options, right? If you want to keep it alive, you can always apply the label and mark it as closeout, right? That way, you'll see like that banner in here and within those project tiles, and you can always filter or sort them by the labels. That is if you wanted to have it like basically live within your Fieldwire platform. Another option is that, let's say that it's completed. I don't really have a need to go back and reference unless it's like a specific item you check. I can always archive this. So by doing an archive, you're not deleting the project, you're just basically removing it from your project dashboard, right? So it's not for you to see. So I can archive it here, it's gone, and then now when I wanna bring it back, I can always go to filter projects, toggle archive, and then you can see all those guys that were archived in the past.
Awesome. Thanks for going over that, Melissa. We are almost at time. For any questions, again, we didn't get to, we will try to get back to you with those answers. Thanks for being so engaging today. And also, thanks for attending. And I hope the session was useful for all of you. And thank you so much, Melissa, for going over these workflows and answering all the questions. And we would really appreciate it, guys, if you can just stay over for a couple of minutes after this webinar and answer the 5 questions in the survey. It'll not take you more than a minute or two. So thanks again and have a great day. Take care.